Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part two of our best practices series, the importance of business operations and documentation, specifically as we see it through the lens of the FP&A process. I am really excited to continue with this part, not necessarily because of the content within part two, but this real clarity that I have around what financial planning and analysis means to you, not only what it means in relation to building the business that you're looking for and the success that you're hoping to get out of that business, or the success of the business itself, but what it means to you when it comes to the wealth accumulation that you deserve from working so hard. And the tools that it takes to get there are integral to the financial planning and analysis process. And really, it's no more challenging than the accounting systems that you're already using. We've got this incredible source of information to move beyond tax preparation and to use that information to accomplish those goals. And I'm going to just keep repeating this because it's just so exciting to see this stuff in this way, and what I describe as through this lens. And I just want to keep circling back briefly to remind you exactly what financial planning and analysis is, and really what the common elements of it are. And just real briefly, as we discussed earlier, budgeting, forecasting, KPIs, right? The really great stuff that helps you track the goals that you've put in place. And for those that this really fits into, whether it's today, next year, or further down the road, investment analysis, right? The assets within your business, and ultimately, are we making sure that we're managing cash flow more effectively? And so I'm expanding upon last week's presentation of part one and just giving you a little bit more of a visual to go on of how FP&A is really the hub of all of this activity, and really embedded under that orange square is your existing accounting information. So as I proceed through this, I'm going to reference the part of what we see and try to kind of dial it into or create a connection to, is this a planning or a budgeting conversation or an element of that conversation? Is this a KPI component, right? Is this something that we use for forecasting and things of that nature? All right, so here we go. So business expenses, right? Everybody really doesn't need me to share with them what a business expense, but I really love this part. This goes way, way back to my earliest days of doing this for a living. And it's important to understand some key components simply around ordinary and necessary. And I'd love for you to just take a good look at this even after this is over and really come away that these are some common sense terms that the government applies, right, to what you're spending money on. But there's some keys within it to always remember. And really, my takeaway is that an expense doesn't need to be indispensable or to be considered necessary. So this is something that people should always be familiar with. This takes us to a very simple understanding of, is this deductible or is this not deductible? Or is this a business expense or not a business expense? And do you say yes or no to that question? And also, just as importantly, how does it relate to the future profitability of the business? These are just some traditional, albeit probably very familiar expenses that you probably have seen. Great example of KPIs. We will spend time with folks in these areas, particularly if there's significance to them. Rent is a significant KPI factor. Payroll is a significant KPI factor, wages and salaries. And so this has a lot to do with KPIs that we'll work to drill in on. It also is the essential element of budgeting. This is just some real good clarification around what advertising, marketing, and promotion expenses are. As a CPA, you could probably imagine I had very little understanding of what marketing really is. This is just as informative to me, or has been as informative to me in my marketing process as it will be to you in your accounting process. Some great promotion questions. Please take a close look at this. It can be somewhat alarming to people that client gifts are limited to $25 per year. Yes, the IRS will limit you. Which is better to use? If possible, try to use promotional items because they're 100% deductible, not limited like those gifts. And keep in mind, our favorite kind of gift to give to folks, entertainment tickets, generally a no, other than that $25 limitation. This is something that really just want to bring your attention to. Auto expenses usually break down into option one or option two. Let this be a component that we discuss together and apply to your business specifically. It really is one of those things that one may not be better than the other on its face, but as we filter through your unique business's needs, that'll become clear. This is a great example of some compliance issues and how to measure mileage, things you can use to measure those miles. And this is definitely worth taking a look at. Keep in mind, when it comes to IRS audits, you're going to need to provide evidence. Best effort, okay, does apply. This is something that you don't have to win an award for doing. But if the IRS gets the sense that you're not giving any effort at all, you're starting from a disadvantage. Your starting point is at a disadvantage with the government. Also, just some great information for you to address. Got to say, out of any questions that come in through the office, like what is the most popular, auto is got to be in the top three. It definitely is a an area that most people are curious about. We are in a country built on automobiles, and clearly, lots of businesses have concerns about auto expense. This is a great tool that we're going to share with you that's going to show you how to measure which is better for you. We'll make sure that this comes your way shortly after the presentation. Here's some good FAQs. Always good to keep this handy. Again, building up a library of information. And as a reminder, auto expense really does fit very well into the KPI conversation if auto plays a key component in revenue generation. Oftentimes, it's really just a budgeting element. Bank fees and finance charges. Going to get some really good clarification by taking a close look at this. It definitely falls into really more, I would say, almost uniquely into the budgeting component of your FP&A process. Client costs or a cost of a sale. It's a little deep to get into on a broad level in this format, but it's something that lots of people should take a close look at. Major component of forecasting. Depending on the nature of your business, this is something that really could play into a 1, 3, or 5 year forecast that becomes important to you on how to grow your business. Clothing and uniforms, don't want to spend too much time on this other than it's pretty much a budgeting item. Not a lot of people spending money on this type of stuff for their businesses, but gets really murky for some people. It's got to be essential to your business. If it's not a uniform or special work clothes, right, like something that's branded, it cannot be something you wear anywhere on the street. And that, I mean that very broadly, anywhere that these clothing could be worn, a wedding, a communion, a bar mitzvah, you name it. If you're not wearing them out, you would not wear them outside of work. Okay. Company branded clothing, that's your ticket, right? That's what you want to definitely be spending money on when it comes to clothing. Dry cleaning and other care, take a close look. There's a nice little travel tip there. Cost for cleaning your clothing on a business trip is a deduction, and omnipresent. Pay for this stuff, okay, with business funds. Commission and fees, definitely a forecasting component based on your model, certainly built into budgeting, and can be a real KPI for business owners. And so if this is a hot button item for you or something that you spend a lot of money with on your business, we're going to want to take a close look. Independent contractors, hooray, real clarity here. This is something that often gets confused. I really would like you to take a close look at some of the compliance issues here, particularly when you need to generate a 1099, generally who can be classified as an independent contractor and what the IRS tests are. And then my favorite, the smell test. Okay, definitely you should be hiring a business contract for services. Contractors pay their own expenses. Those contractors have their own tax ID number in a business name. Key elements or common sense elements around proof of insurance, workers' comp. Do they have those things in place? Between what the IRS says and what your gut or smell test provides, this will help provide some clarification. And of course, we're here for you as well. Dues, licenses, and publications. Pretty much a straight up budget item. Doesn't move the needle for a lot of people. But yeah, definitely just kind of hangs in there around budgeting within the FP&A process. Education and professional development really does fall in line with those other components. Where I really want to take you though with this, let's go back a second. Children, paying children, paying your children enough income or enough wages to help benefit with or benefit from some of the tuition credits that are out there. Very, very much a specific as it applies to you need. We'll talk about it more together. Equipment purchases, big time forecasting issue, really significant KPI, does work into budgeting, but because these things have what you see here, useful lives, are far larger a concept and far larger a concern than just budgeting, and really does get built into the forecasting model. This is some good tax information on ways you can get the most value for your equipment purchases in any given year. If this is something that's come your way, it's probably something that we've discussed. If it isn't something that previously has come your way, it's on the table. We really should take a close look at it. Insurance, not going to worry about this too much. Generally a budgeting item. Most people, actually just spoke to somebody today who has owned a building and had a business and for years has not had liability insurance. Take a close look at your P&L. Take a close look at your circumstances and make sure that this, if it does apply to you, has been addressed. Health insurance, not going to spend too much time in here. This is a budgeting item, not much more in terms of forecasting or KPIs other than those folks who have large staff. KPIs can be generated on a month over month, quarter over quarter basis, and this can be something that shoots up or skyrockets or just grows unexpectedly. This could be a KPI that we work to measure with you month to month. Meals and entertainment. This is just a great record to take a look at where the government is with this kind of stuff. This is a follow the bouncing ball thing with the IRS. The political football nature of the way the IRS operates, these things come and go. This is as we see it today, so take a close look. Definitely falls in line with some, mostly some simple budgeting concerns or questions that you might have. Not going to spend too much on the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2020. It was the disruptor around meals and entertainment. Take a close look at these bullet points. When we review your P&L, these things will kind of pop off the page to both of us, and we'll fit them in together and see where they apply the most. Same thing with office supplies. Not a huge needle mover for people around KPIs or forecasting. Really just does works itself into the budgeting process. Professional fees also very much similar to those prior expenses. Postage and delivery, rent or lease payments, another definite forecast related component, especially if you are a renter and renting from a landlord as opposed to buying your own office property to rent to yourself. This can be a cornerstone of the FP&A process, especially when we move deeper into how FP&A relates to the investment analysis of your balance sheet. Where are those longer term commitments? Where are those bigger payments, heavy equipment, uh, office space that you own, large value in pension plans, renting to yourself falls right in line with that. Home office rental doesn't apply to everybody. We have a great tool that we're going to share with you about how to manage this. And we're going to have a follow up. One of our staff is going to take folks through this item specifically. So if it is something that's on your plate and does mean a lot to you, when we schedule time to meet with each other, this will be something that we'll have on that list. Just some FAQs around home office rental. Telecommunication, budget item. Everybody's familiar with it. This is just some best practice information, ways that you can carve up expenses that might be family based and you can get a business expense for it. It's just some good informative stuff. Pause here and take a close look at it if this is meaningful to you. Travel expense, business related, also really informative. Definitely a budget item, could be a KPI that you help to manage your business and make management decisions, but generally not the case. This is just a really informative, brings you up to speed as where things stand currently. Take a close look, please. Some FAQs about that. Utilities, also just more good data. This is a budgeting item. This really just, again, helps bring you into the loop as to how a lot of this stuff is treated. Wages and salaries, forecasting, and KPIs, largely speaking, one of the most important items for people to understand and address and to measure. All of you are falling into this realm. If you're a client of this company, definitely something that we have spent a lot of time on traditionally in the past, and that's not going away. Based on this FP&A process, we're only going to get deeper into it. Miscellaneous is miscellaneous. This is something that we've really worked with a lot of people. If you're unsure about where to put a category, you shove it into Ask My Accountant. We take a close look at it, help define where it really should be, and then figure out if that's something that we're measuring on a forecasting, budgeting, or even an investment analysis basis. And that, in a nutshell, under 20 minutes, is our best practice series, Business Operations and Documentation Part 2, especially as it's seen through the lens of the FP&A process. Thank you all so much. More to come after this. We're moving past best practices into some deeper, more specific areas. Again, always through financial planning and analysis. This is our road to success. This is how we're going to measure that post-tax net worth and how we're going to put your business in a position for succession planning and exit and M&A and the things that really matter beyond the daily operations. Talk to you all very soon. Be well. Bye-bye.